Oh, yes, it's a little chilly out in the Finger Lakes region. Good morning, everybody. It's November the 4th, 2013. The dog is in the kennel once again with another edition of Weber This Week. And I want to remind you early on in this show, real early, tomorrow is vote day, so get out and vote. I don't care who you vote for, but do your service and get out and vote. It is a chilly start on a Monday the 4th of November. We welcome you to our show. And as advertised, we have another guest on the couch, as we like to refer to on this show. We bring in Janelle Drach, who is the director of the Geneva Rec Complex and many other little bits and pieces that she's involved in, and her and her team. We'll talk to Janelle about what makes that Geneva Rec Complex. I've had the opportunity to be up there quite a few times, and it's just not all that she's involved in. Janelle, welcome to the show. Thanks for carving out some time.
Sure, thank you.
Looking at your resume, let me start off by having you introduce yourself to our audience and state where you were born, where you went to high school, where you went to school. Give us a little background for that.
All right, great. Well, I'm a Finger Lakes native. Grew up in Romulus. Went to Romulus Central School.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Went to SUNY Cortland. Got a bachelor's degree in recreation management. Then worked in the field for a few years, recreation counseling for a few different nonprofits. Then went off to grad school, Springfield College in Massachusetts. And once I graduated from there, I got into campus recreation, worked for Binghamton University for a little while, and found my way back to the Finger Lakes as the recreation director for the City of Geneva.
How did that happen? Did you get a call there was an opening or a position that was going to be open?
Yes, correct. My predecessor, Martha Wilson, was retiring after 30-plus years, and being somebody who was from the area, a lot of my friends and family knew I was interested in that field, and basically told me, hey, why don't you try for this position? And it was a civil service exam, so I had to go through that process, which is always interesting. But luckily I was one of the top 3 candidates, and they picked me. So
that's all that counts.
And that was 5 years ago. So
now, this was a field you always wanted to endeavor in?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah,
Okay.
it was kind of just one of those funny things. I went in to see a guidance counselor in high school, and they said, hey, do you know about recreation? Because I said I love sports, I play sports, I love the outdoors. And I knew I wasn't really into being a phys ed teacher, so to speak, and this was kind of another up-and-coming program that they had at Cortland, and loved it, loved my professors, loved all the opportunities that I got to work in the community, and just felt like a great fit for me.
Well, before you were born, I used to go to Romulus and do a lot of basketball games, play-by-play of the arch-rival Romulus South Seneca.
Indeed, yeah.
And I think it was before you were born that the Romulus Hotel used to be out there.
Mm-hmm.
Will you remember that hotel? Or
vaguely.
It had burned down since
yeah,
you came
it
back.
did. I was around for when it did burn down.
But that was a hot
high
spot.
School.
That was really a hot spot. In little old Romulus, whereas if you blink, you miss it. If you miss that turn. And I spent a lot of nights at the Romulus Hotel. It was a tough reservation to get, but it was outstanding food.
Absolutely.
And no man's land. But I remember going to Romulus and covering a lot of games out there when it was phenomenal arch rival, and both schools had good programs back then.
Absolutely.
South Seneca, Romulus. And I see that the discussion of dissolution is out the door.
It is, yes. They did vote it down recently.
It was kind of interesting. We got Minder Seneca Falls shooting it down. Mm-hmm. We have Romulus South Seneca shooting it down. Now Lyons, I believe, is in the act of considering it.
Yeah.
My hometown. So Janelle Drach is our guest this morning, and we're talking about, as far as the rec complex goes, most people go into the rec complex and see what you have to offer there. But explain to us and our audience about other things that you're involved in, and how that all coordinates with you and your team.
Sure. Well, the recreation department kind of does a broad spectrum of programming. Of course, it's easy to be recognized as the Geneva Recreation Complex as our main facility. It is seasonal, so not only is it an ice rink in the summertime, we actually convert it into an indoor turf facility. So we hold a lot of soccer practices, we do some lacrosse leagues, and a lot of different clinics in there. And actually our summer rec program was held there this past summer, and that was really successful having that there. We manage all the parks and the playgrounds, so we try and provide programming in those. Our DPW does the maintenance, but the rec department will be the coordinators for those activities. We handle the farmers market, which is seasonal.
I found that interesting.
Yeah.
Now, what coordination does that have to do with the rec complex, the farmers market?
The farmers market, it's just it's an opportunity, to bring a program to the community, and that kind of just falls under our expertise, so to speak.
It's kind of neat.
Yeah, Yeah, it's great. We're really, we enjoy providing that, and it's actually grown quite well within the past 5 or 6 years. There's really just become a culture of, backyard farming and growing and,
neat.
Live local, buy local. So, we really enjoy offering that. And we're going to have a holiday farmers market on the 16th. That again will bring in some of those vendors that are seasonal for us. And
so basically, you mentioned there's like 70 or 80 people that work either for you directly or indirectly.
Correct.
What do you do? Contact several people during the day and find out if certain aspects are under control?
Yeah,
because obviously you can't be in 90 places at once.
Sure. We have a lot of year-round part-time staff.
Sure.
Most of them are exercise instructors or sports officials. Or they help out at the ice rink, or if we're in the summer season, then we have different part-time staff. So really, we check in as much as we can, but at some point, you've got to just put the trust in them that they're doing the job that I know they can do,
Sure.
and we get good feedback from the participants, so that helps a lot. That I have a lot of good staff out there that I rely on to provide good programming.
You mentioned you got your master's at Springfield. Does that mean you are a Red Sox fan when they won the World Series? Did you have a...
No. My roommate was a diehard Red Sox fan.
So what baseball team did you like?
The New York Mets.
The Mets?
The Mets.
You've endured some pain.
Indeed, yes.
Oh, you lost your ace pitcher with Tommy John surgery.
Mm-hmm.
And he'll be out next year, obviously.
Yeah, we always say it's a rebuilding year for about a decade. Going on a decade now.
That's what the Bills fans say.
Yeah.
So you've been a Mets fan.
Yeah, ever since I was little. My grandmother was a big Mets fan for whatever reason.
You never crossed the border to the Yankees, huh?
No.
Now, is your hubby a Yankee fan? Or
no, he's actually from Chicago originally.
Don't tell me he's a Cub fan.
He's a Cub fan.
Oh my God! He must have a bottle of Excedrin nearby, huh?
Yeah, the Cubs and the Bears.
I bet he was hoping that Girardi might go out there.
Yeah, not going to happen.
Hey, stay with the Yankees, getting $5 million a year, not a bad job, right?
Yeah, so we commiserate together, come September that,
Okay, well, I thought maybe you got swung over when you went to Springfield as a Red Sox fan.
No, I went to a few games.
Hey, by the way, speaking of the Red Sox fans, to Brad Jones, if you're checking out my show, I know we have a bunch of viewers that tune in every week. Kudos to you Red Sox fans. I'm not a big Red Sox fan, but I got to give credit where credit is due. Some historical marks that Janelle can relate to and Jimmy can. This team was one of the worst teams in baseball a year ago, Jimmy. One of the worst teams. And adios amigo, and they turn it around. Not only turn it around, they win the World Series the next year. Pretty amazing, Jim, when you stop and think about it.
Well, I think Big Papi got back on the steroids. You can't be 37 years old
It's amazing.
And have a resurgence like that in the bat speed.
It's pretty amazing. So to Brad Jones, Brad, kudos to you and your Red Sox fans. And I have to admit, I lost a little Weber gold on that bet. I had a little bet action with the Cardinals. And, hey, Cardinals, they'll be there every other year. It seems like St. Louis gets in. Yeah. They have an amazing program. So we're talking with this morning on Weber This Week, Janelle Drach, who is joining us for the full half hour. What we're going to do now is we're going to talk about some NFL action. Well, let's go to college action first. Well, the SU Orangeman, Jimmy, of course, graduated from SU. He's excited about the potentiality of Scott Schaefer's team making a bowl bid. Right now they got 4, una due tres cuatro. They need 6 to be bowl eligible. I look at it this way. Jimmy's hoping on a dream and a prayer that they could go down to Florida State and win. I don't see that happening.
They got 4 games left.
I know, but they got to win. They got to win 2
of them.
2 out of 4.
Pittsburgh, Boston College,
right?
Florida State, and Maryland
this week. Florida State the following week on the road. 2 back-to-back on the road. Then they come home and play Pittsburgh and Boston College to wrap up the year.
Well, coming off a 56-0 loss to Georgia Tech, this was a do-or-die game for Wake Forest. So now I'm feeling like where I got the inside track.
Janelle's too young to remember this, but one of my favorite artists and one of my favorite songs of all time is Meatloaf. 2 out of 3 ain't bad.
I'm sure she knows the song.
I love that song. Have you heard it?
I
love that song. That is one of my all-time top 3 songs. I should have Jimmy queued up today. In my view, we're talking 2 out of 3 here. Forget about Florida State. I'm sorry, SU fans. Jimmy's dreaming. Not going to lose. Not going to beat Florida State. Ain't going to happen. And if it happens, I'll take 3 pies, Jimmy, and let you hit me in the face with all 3 the Monday after the show, after that game.
Okay.
I used to take a pie in the face to get people upset when I do these shows. If Florida State loses to Syracuse, Jim Senecrope, and I'll even pay for the pies, can nail me 3 times because that's how shocking it
I
would
might
be.
bring some guests in
I know
the
you
other
would.
2. I'll do 1 pie.
I think, Janelle, the line by Vegas might be 50 points. Might be. It'll be in the 40s. Florida State, second in the country. So anyways, 2 out of 3 ain't bad. The line of thinking here, I think they got to beat Maryland this week. Makes their coast into the bowl potentiality a lot easier because I don't see them beating Florida State, excuse me. Then they got to win either against Boston College and Pitt, one of those 2 games. If you lose to Maryland, now you got to win the last 2 because you're not going to beat Florida State. That's a personal opinion. We'll see what happens. If I asked Jimmy Senecrobe to take some of that Senecrobe money that he's got in a hole behind his house, I don't think, Jimmy, you would take $1 out of that hole and bet on Syracuse.
I'll take the 40 points.
I'll call you with the spread, baby. We have some action. All right. I like it. Speaking of college football, my friend Gordy was Heinzman. He may be out of the area. I picked on him for losing to Duke at Virginia Tech, which was amazing. Duke, that was not Krzyzewski coaching, by the way. That was Duke football. Yeah, they're getting a little bit better. But beating Virginia Tech at Virginia Tech, please. That is an unbelievable, shocking development. Now what happens? BC beats Virginia Tech this past weekend. So Gordy Heinzman, who's a Hokie guy and his family went to Virginia Tech. I know, Gordy, you're a good friend of mine, but please come out of that gopher hole. We love you, buddy. It's just a tough year. And by the way, the other night I was telling Janelle before airtime, I was in a restaurant and somebody was graduated from Notre Dame, was talking proud about his Irish. They're one of the power teams in the country. Really? Really? You had to come from behind with 3 minutes to go at South Bend Saturday to beat them by 4. Are you serious?
Navy, yeah.
Navy. By the way, I work part-time at the Thruway when all those military people come through. Army, Navy, Coast Guard, Marines, the whole shebang. I always shake their hand and say, thanks for defending the country. That's what Navy does for us. I remember the days of Roger Staubach. Maybe Janelle doesn't because she's too young. They had a couple of great programs in the history of football, but that's Navy. They defend the country. They're wonderful folks. They should not be ahead of Notre Dame at South Bend with 3 minutes to play. So you're not a power team if you can't impress the dog better than that. Let me talk about some local. Switching back to local, Clyde-Savannah, the Golden Eagles, continue to put up impressive marks. Janelle mentioned Robin. She certainly remembers the Clyde-Savannah dominance in basketball and football, where I had the opportunity to do a lot of their games. My friends from Clyde-Savannah, and I was there a couple weeks ago, met a friend of mine at the only bar in town that I go to, Little Red Barrel, sent out a little plug for them as well. Clyde-Savannah knocks off Alexander 30-24. Congratulations to my friends over in Clyde-Savannah for an outstanding win. And let's not forget, Red Jacket in Class DD beats Calmum 36-28 in overtime. And by the way, that Clyde-Savannah-Alexander game was Class D.
Now they play each other. Again, it's become quite a rivalry. Clyde-Savannah and Red Jacket. Red Jacket eliminated Clyde last year from the postseason. Clyde beat him in Manchester earlier this year, and now they play again.
Speaking of a local team where Janelle lives and works, Geneva, the Panthers are on a roll. She's going to have a lot of cheerleaders take some time off Saturday, and a lot of her staff will be going to Rochester and her football players because they're heading to Rochester. Big showdown battle coming up 3 o'clock this coming Saturday. Geneva takes on Wayne.
Now they beat Newark, and that to me is probably the game of the year locally to get Geneva playing Newark. Now, Newark beat Geneva in the regular season, giving them their only loss.
Exactly.
And so now Geneva wins and moves on again for the second straight year to the sectional title game.
Listen, when we have a guest on this Weber This Week show, we always find out a little about our background. First off, you have a relationship with the Hobart football team.
I do. I am married to one of the assistant coaches there.
And let's give kudos to the Hobart football team.
Absolutely.
I'll leave it to you to say it, 7-0.
7-0.
Pretty amazing.
To go 8-0 against St. Lawrence.
St. Lawrence not much of a threat?
They're actually, this year, they've kind of showed up pretty big, so it's going to be a good game. They really need to pull out a win to stay on top in the Liberty League.
Well, my broadcast partner, Janelle, on this show will be talking about her love for the Philadelphia Eagles. What an impressive win they had yesterday. And my buddy up in Waterloo, Scott Trickler, says the fix factor is in sometimes in the NFL with some of these bizarre results. We'll go into more details. Continue our talk with Janelle Drach as you check out Weber This Week. But let's hear from the people that make this show possible, my fine sponsors. We'll be back. Hugo Lake National Bank. Bill Ryan and his team for all of your banking needs. Offices in Union Springs and Aurora. A fine sponsor of this show for over 30 years. DA Liquors, Seneca Falls. Amy Padula and her great team will find that right spirit for you every time. Tell Amy the dog sent you. Steve Wadhams, Wadhams Enterprises. your employer of choice. Proud supporter of this show and local athletics. Steve Muller Motors, smullermotors.com. Quality, affordable vehicles, both foreign and domestic. Bob and Leslie Oman, owners of the Oman Theater in Lyons, as well as the Newark Pilots, a minor league baseball team with a major league ballpark. Lizard's Tailgater Lounge, Waterloo. Best mott sticks around, where you can enjoy a drink and some laughs. SenecaFallsCountryClub.com. Awesome 18-hole layout, offering a 12-month payment plan. Home of the toughest par 4 in central New York. That'd be number 16. Marshall Auto Sales. DickMarshallsAuto.com. Awesome used vehicles, where you not only can buy a great vehicle, you can gain a great friend in Dick Marshall. Wilson Press. WPress.com. Seneca Falls. Rich Ricky, my good friend, and his team can handle all of your printing and mailing needs. Rich Ricky, Wilson Press, a fine sponsor of Weber This Week. Yes. Welcome back, everybody. It's the Dog, H. Weber, with Janelle Drach, our special guest this morning here on the show. Well, let's get to Jimmy and talk a little bit about SU sports. Jimmy, of course, you got the basketball program ripping. Let's talk about SU.
Yeah, they
pretty excited.
Open up Friday night against Cornell for real. They got another exhibition game on Tuesday night against Ryerson from Canada. And
now they played Holy Rosary the other night, or Holy Family?
Holy Family.
Okay, good,
out of
good.
Philadelphia.
Okay.
Just an exhibition game, obviously, and they look good. They're really deep. You know, every year when Syracuse starts a new season, you see all these young freshmen that come in.
Right.
And to me, what I'm trying to figure out is, okay, we know Tyler Ennis, the freshman point guard, he's going to play about 38 minutes a game, and he's fantastic. I'll tell you what, despite how great Michael Carter-Williams has done in the NBA so far, I'm really comfortable with this Ennis kid taking over for Carter-Williams. I think he's better in a lot of ways for the college game.
Really?
Under control, better outside shooter. Not quite as tall, but still he's big for a point guard. But then we got these other guys, B.J. Johnson, Ron Patterson, Tyler Roberson, and who am I missing? Well, Michael Benajay's a transfer from Duke, so I wouldn't consider him a freshman. So the trick is figuring out, okay, Bam's going to play all these guys in November against Cornell and St. Francis, but who's he going to play come January in the ACC? And right now it's between Patterson and B.J. Johnson. B.J. Johnson looks like he can score from anywhere, but a little streaky. But Patterson, in the game I was at on the first exhibition game on what night was that? Friday night? Patterson played great. He made a couple three-pointers. He played some good defense, so it'll be interesting to see. But I think we're underrated at 8 preseason.
I saw that, yeah. I was a little surprised. I thought he'd be higher, get a little higher rating.
Yeah, well, you know, it's...
no respect.
No, meanwhile, Duke gets a top 5 ranking, and their whole season is relying on Jabari Parker, who's a freshman.
Right.
So I guess ours kind of is with Tyler Ennis, but I love college basketball. It's back. It's the best thing about winter around here. And boy, I actually am a little less excited about it now that Syracuse beat Wake Forest. After that Georgia Tech game, 56-0, I was ready for basketball season to start immediately.
Hey.
But yeah, I'm excited. It's going to be a great year. First year in the ACC. I think that's all going to be fun and great until we go to the postseason tournament and it's in Greensboro and not Madison Square Garden. That's not going to be fun.
You see it ever coming to Madison Square?
Oh, yeah. I mean, they'd be kind of stupid not to, right? They're the Atlantic Coast Conference. It's the biggest city on the coast, and Madison Square Garden's a mecca of basketball. So.
I know those Carolina folks like to keep it there in the home base, though. They like it there.
So with the start of Syracuse basketball season, Matt Verke and Brad Connor and I have the Upstate Orange podcast, which starts Thursday night, 10 p.m.
Beautiful.
On Finger Lakes 1 TV, and we'll be there every Thursday night at 10 p.m. from now until Syracuse goes to the Final Four again in
I'll watch the show the next
April.
morning because that's 30 minutes after I go to bed.
Well, you can watch it on demand.
When you get to be as old as the dog, you go to bed early, and you get up early. I'm up at 5, so God forsake. Well, listen, Janelle Drach is joining us. We've got a few minutes left in the show, but she's an Eagle fan, so talk about your Eagle love. When did you become an Eagle fan?
Well, it's a Syracuse alumni, Donovan McNabb, when he became the quarterback.
Okay.
decided to stay with the team, when he left, and, he just received induction there, I believe. He got his jersey retired. So
in Philadelphia and then in the Carrier Dome this weekend, too. So both Syracuse and Philadelphia. And it was great to see him get to go back to Philadelphia, because the way he left, it was a shame, and he had to go play for Washington and Minnesota or wherever he played. It was kind of embarrassing. But certainly now I think Eagles fans can say, geez, those really were golden years, going to all those NFC championship games. I'm sure they kill for an NFC championship game right about now.
It's funny about your Eagles, though. The first game, they went into Washington. They ran roughshod over the Skins. And Chip from Oregon, the head coach there.
Yeah, Chip Kelly.
Chip Kelly, they were saying, oh, my God, how are we going to defend this college football scenario? Well, guess what? They figured it out the next week.
They just needed 1 week of tape.
Amazing. And, of course, yesterday, your backup quarterback throws 7 touchdown passes.
Yeah, he looked pretty good.
He looked real good. But, you talk about some of the events. The Raiders were Philadelphia stomped on. They beat Pittsburgh. They're my team. You talk about having a tough go of it. I remember the Raiders. Again, this is before you were around, but way, way back, the Raiders used to be really good. I loved Al Davis, the owner. I loved his saying, "Just win, baby, just win." That was his ownership. But here the Raiders beat Pittsburgh, which, by the way, Pittsburgh, oh, you Pittsburgh fans, you got to be having some migraine headaches, huh? I went to see my doctor this morning. He can give you a prescription. Oh, my God, Pittsburgh, whatever happened to that franchise? Take a look at the numbers behind the backs of these position players, because I don't think you're going to see 80% of them next year. They're going to keep Tomlin. He's a heck of a coach. But I would look for wholesale changes, because Pittsburgh's just not used to getting crushed. Last night, of course, they lose by.
Well, it's a fine line, though. Look at Kansas City. Last year, they were horrible. The only thing they changed was the coach. And Alex Smith. They brought in Alex Smith as quarterback, which nobody was real high on Alex Smith. They're 9-0. So.
But you know what? But Philadelphia, give them credit. They win by 30 on the road. Amazing. They just ran threw the ball all over the Raiders. So credit Janelle and her Eagles. Speaking of Houston, talk about Heartbreak City. We're referring to being in Las Vegas. Let's say you went up and bet where you could bet legally. The line last night was Indianapolis minus 2.5. That means you got to win by 3 to win. Well, guess what, folks? You're down 18.5 if you had money on Indianapolis. At home at Houston, they're leading by 18. I fall asleep as normal. I never stay up for the whole games anyways. And all of a sudden, I get up the paper this morning, check on ESPN, which is my first channel of choice. Houston wins by 3. What? Must have been a collapse of a century. Did you watch the game? Did you watch the game?
A little while.
Oh, my Lord.
We watch football 24/7.
Yeah, I was going to say, well, you have a husband that's assistant coach at Hobart. You got to be into that. But you know what? I'm going, what? So, I mean, if you had money last night, legally, on Houston, you may be staying off ladders today, baby, because had to be a tough loss. And my friends, the Bills, I always take shots at the Bills, and they will continue this morning. Hey, I was at a baby shower, first time ever. Went to a baby shower yesterday. That was historical. It was co-ed. They call it Jack and Jill. Jimmy just told me what it's called. Okay, that was fun. Call me again when there's another one. I was kidding my wife last night. But all seriousness, I watched the Bills in the bar when the girls were doing the opening of the gifts, and that took about 3 hours. Folks, I can't make this stuff up. There's an old line that I like to use on this show. Good teams find a way to win. Bad teams find a way to lose. Bills leading 10-3. If you missed it, just came back from Moscow. They're on the 1-yard line of Kansas City. They're leading 10-3. Toole, the third-string quarterback, goes back to pass. He throws it to Jimmy Senecropi, who's wearing a red jersey. Kansas City. Where does he go? 100 yards.
It's terrible.
Are you serious? Now it gets better. Now we got a 10-10 game. There's a few Bills fans at the bar at the American Legion where the baby shower was. They're throwing their hats in disgust. But it gets better. Now it's 10-10. The game's in Buffalo. All of a sudden, Toole throws a pass to one of his receivers. The guy catches the ball, takes a step. Somebody from the Chiefs linebacking core slaps the ball away. It's on the ground. Who picks it up? Jimmy Senecropi again with a red jersey. He coasted in the end zone, touchdown. So from a 10-3 lead to what would appear 99.9%, you'd make it 17-3. Game over. Buffalo. All of a sudden it's 10-10. And all of a sudden they're down 17-10. Jim, I can't make this stuff up. I mean, you got to be a Bills fan. And I was kidding somebody at the bar yesterday when I was having a refreshment. I asked this gentleman, and he was laughing about it. Do you guys get needles on Sunday morning and stick it in all parts of your body to withstand pain before you watch this team? Folks, it's embarrassing. I'm telling you, it's embarrassing. I mean, you cannot, Jimmy, have better control of a game than you had yesterday, and you end up losing it by 10. Pretty sad. Pretty sad.
It's how it is in the NFL.
It's pretty sad.
There's a lot of evenly matched.
Amazing.
There's not that much difference between if you throw Jacksonville out the window and maybe.
Yeah, I know.
But even like look at Minnesota. They played a game against Dallas.
Yep.
They're one of the worst teams in the league. But it's a fine line. So the difference between winning and losing is often things like clock management and protecting the football.
Unbelievable.
And
that had to be one of the most bizarre games I've seen in a while.
But I don't think any Bills fans. I think all Bills fans are pretty happy with Doug Marrone so far. I think they feel like they can win every game, and then
just win.
That wasn't necessarily Marone's fault.
They're in the games, just not winning. Yeah, they're in the games, they're not finishing.
Well, the Buffalo media, I was going to say, Janelle, they have a new term now: resilient. They were resilient in defeat.
Well, that pass that they threw in the end zone that was intercepted, that Toole threw, he missed. Steve Johnson was wide open. The matter of fact, the guy that picked it off let Steve Johnson go by him, and Steve Johnson was in the back of the end zone.
And by the way, since I've never been a Bills fan, and I like to pick on the Bills on this show, which is part of my show here, we're getting ready to flip the charts. What's that mean? 13 years without a playoff record, 8 years with a losing record. We're close to, maybe in the next week or two, I'll be bringing in charts, 14-9. It looks like we're going to go 14-9. And I understand Marrone is a nice guy, and I understand that Russ Brandon, the new head down there in Buffalo. But, folks, the numbers don't lie. 14-9. 14 years without a playoff. 9 years looks like with a losing record.
It's too bad because
Stats
up here in
don't
upstate
lie.
New York, I'm a Giants fan, but I root for the Bills too. Not back in the day when they used to be rivals and the Giants beat them when Norwood kicked it wide right in 1990. But since then, and since Finger Lakes 1 has emerged, it's good for us and good for the area if the Bills do good because they're our team. They're only 2.5 hours down the thruway. And the same thing with Syracuse basketball and same thing with Syracuse football. Now, Syracuse football being a little down recently and the Bills being down, maybe we should go check out Hobart.
Absolutely.
They're 7-0.
Hobart's got a great program.
About $5 tickets probably, right?
They're pretty cheap, And by the way, speaking of the NFL, so I have to take a shot at the Bills fans. And don't forget, next couple of weeks we'll bring in the charts. So I know you don't want to check out that show. You'll be flipping off Finger Lakes 1 for that day. How about the Jets? I love Scott Tricker. Fix factor. It's set up by Las Vegas and the Gamblers. Jets lose by 40 last week to Cincinnati.
They're 5-4
Cincinnati
now.
is a mediocre team. Not a great team. Mediocre. Jets lose by 40. What happens yesterday? In comes Drew Brees and the high-flying Saints. The Jets beat them.
That's what I'm saying about the NFL.
Are
it's
you
a fine
serious?
line. It's a fine line.
I mean,
winning and losing in the NFL.
It just amazes me on some of these things. Well, we've had some fun with the NFL.
Before you go, Michael Carter-Williams.
Michael, phenomenal. Saw some tape on him, looking good, getting a lot of raise from the analysts. Took Derrick Rose to school the other day on a driving layup with a minute to go. Kids got a lot of game, and they're really impressed.
Yeah, it's good. Syracuse has some great players between Carmelo, Deion Waiters, Michael Carter-Williams. Rinzian Onwaku is caught on with a roster, and Chris Joseph also caught on with a roster. I think Onwaku's with the New Orleans Pelicans. And Joseph is with the Bobcats. So it's good to see Syracuse succeed in the NBA. That helps recruiting, actually.
That's right. Well, Janelle, you've got so many things going on. Let me ask you a question. If somebody wanted to stage an event at the rec complex and they didn't live in Geneva, would they be allowed to submit a request to have an event?
Absolutely.
So you do consider outside the area?
Absolutely.
They would have priority, something inside City of Geneva? Would they have priority because they're a resident?
Not necessarily. It is first come, first serve.
Okay.
We realize we are the only facility of that type, within this region. And, we love to cater to outside agencies as well and, try and work in concert with a lot of different community members and different groups to
And a young girl we talked about while we were chit-chatting before we got on the air, Chelsea's involved in setting up some events.
Yeah, we just
and that's a new position.
Approved.
That's a new position.
Absolutely. Events factory coordinator is the position title, and so she's the interim right now. And she's really going to kind of be in charge of really kind of trying to bring in some new events to the facilities that we have. And we've got a new event center that's going to be opening up in December down at the lakefront. which used to be the old Chamber Center building.
Sure.
And that's, 5,000 square foot facility, so there's lots of possibilities, and, we really need somebody to kind of market and promote that. And she's going to be our girl, and she's going to be starting up a website as well, so people can go online and get information, submit, for applications to host events. So we're really looking forward to kind of unrolling the whole Events Factory office.
Well, it sounds like you've got a multitude of things you're involved in to try to foster relationships with athletics and sports and events of any type. And I love the farmers market tie-in. I think that's cute. But I think, you've done a marvelous job, and I've had the opportunity to see you at Twerk, a broomball tournament.
Yeah.
And it seems like you guys have got your game together, led by you, and certainly obviously you're expecting your reports to respond in a customer service friendly way. And I got to admit that the times I've been there 2 or 3 times, I thought they were very gracious and very customer service minded.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel blessed to have so much support staff that I can rely heavily on to really just do the job that they're expected to do and do more, and they always go above and beyond. And it's always nice when we get that recognition from like last year we had a team from Canada. It was a hockey team traveling from Canada down to the Midwest somewhere on Thanksgiving week, and we opened up our facility on Thanksgiving Day so they could come in and practice as a stop. And they left us a really sweet note, and our staff were very gracious and helped them. And it's just the little things that really do make a big difference. And we understand we're a small community, so people do communicate often word of mouth, and so hopefully we do have that good rapport, and we value that.
Not trying to put you on the spot, but you oversee the operation in Geneva. Would there be a consideration maybe moving on to a bigger element, a bigger city down the road? Is that something that is something in the back of your mind?
Maybe someday. I mean, I'm really still kind of settling into Geneva. There's always new things going on, and I think that's a great aspect of my job, is that every season of a year is different for me. We go from summer to the fall programming, winter, and then, there's always different projects going on. Last year we built a brand new playground on the lakefront. That was a huge endeavor. This year we're looking to build a dog park. So there's always, different projects going on, and, I'm always excited to bring more ideas and have people come together.
Is the rink open for the public yet?
It is, yeah. We've been open for 2 weeks, this weekend we'll have lots of open skate available.
So what are the hours if I wanted to bring my daughter up? What hours are you open?
Great. Well, we're open 7 days a week, Monday through Fridays. We're open in the afternoons from 11:30 to 1:30, so afternoon skaters are welcome to come down. It's a nice break, for lunch. Weekends, Friday night, 7 to 10. Unless we have a Hobart game. Saturdays, 12:45 to 2:45 p.m., and then again at night from 7 to 10 p.m. And then Sunday afternoon skates are 1 to 3:30 p.m.
How do you remember all this stuff?
Repeat. Lots of repetition.
Which, by the way, Doug, we went up and saw the Geneva hockey team practice there, but if you want to catch a hockey game, head up and watch Geneva Waterloo hockey.
Absolutely.
They play in that rink, or Hobart hockey. It's a great place to watch a hockey game.
It is.
I mean, you're right there.
You're right there. Yeah. Yep. It's a great facility.
Now, if I decide to put on skates, and I haven't done that in 50 years, could you put some padding on the ice in case I fall? Which I would fall. Trust me, I would fall.
Just hold on to the dasher boards and just...
okay. Well, all right. Well, I tell the funny story. When we got married years and years ago, we went to the Poconos, and my wife, I didn't realize it was an expert roller skate. She could do backwards and not flips, but she could do all that stuff. She was doing good.
That is impressive.
She was impressive. And I, of course, 5'11.5", no coordination whatsoever, got on the skates. 3rd day of our honeymoon, I'm taking off. And Jimmy and Janelle, I'm driving toward the end of the rink, and all of a sudden I realize, I don't know how to stop. Crash. And I fell on the floor. And I'll never forget that. Mary comes up, and she says, having a problem? I said, yep. So I guess the coordination's not part of it. But listen, we appreciate you spending a valuable time out of your busy schedule.
Thank you.
We hope that you'll come back next year and give us an update.
Absolutely.
We would love to have you back, and good luck to your husband and all the coaches at Hobart.
Yes, thank you.
Good luck to your Eagles. And
good luck to Geneva. Good luck to
Clyde. Good luck to everybody.
Lots of connections. Yeah.
And good luck to your old friends back in Romulus.
Absolutely.
One of my favorite spots. Romulus brings back a lot of great memories. Janelle Drach has spent some time with us this morning. We thank her again for taking time out of your busy schedule. Next week, the dog will be out of the pound. Jimmy will be filling in, obviously, and he'll have a special surprise for you. 2 weeks from today, we bring Nick Ciotti. He will be on the couch. Who's Nick Ciotti? Well, he's the county treasurer, A, but B, he's the newly hired Minders Academy basketball coach. We'll find out with Nick, who's on the couch in 2 weeks, about my alma mater and Jimmy's alma mater at Minders. What kind of basketball team will we be seeing as the season gets ready to unveil? So once again, folks, thanks to my great sponsors. Thanks to Janelle for joining us here on this show. We'll catch you next week. Jimmy will. And until then, get out and vote tomorrow. No excuses. We need your vote. Vote for the dog, will you, for the dog pound. Have a great week, everybody.